Hey folks, Mike here. Welcome to this review of Superior Drummer 3, which is now out for quite a week now. And Superior Drummer 3 not only sets the standard for new drum production and virtual instruments, it really sets the new level for using in combination with eDrum. That's coming up next. Stay tuned. So it's a sunny day here in Germany today. Let's talk about some of the basic things first. So they pretty much continue to build in all the functionalities and features that you already know from Superior Drummer 2, such as randomize hits, humanization functions, velocity curves and stuff. The pretty neat learn function, which I loved from Superior Drummer 2, where you can easily assign a single pad to a certain instrument or particular instrument within Superior Drummer. So all those functions are still available. But the first thing I've noticed was that first of all, they included more articulations per instrument, which I'll show you in a minute. And they've created some really cool and surprising functionalities and features for using with eDrums. And this is what I'll show you now. So you on the top left corner here, you find this MIDI in eDrums button. This is the settings page. And first of all, you will see that in comparison to Superior Drummer 2, they increase the amount of drum modules, the presets for those drum modules. So this is usually your starting point. When you load up Superior Drummer 3, just click the manufacturer that you use. In my case, this is Roland. And this will pretty much already determine like 90-95% of the settings and the MIDI mapping for your particular eDrum set. And this will work right off the box quite smoothly because all the settings in the different MIDI pages will immediately load up to the software. However, they made something possible that I wouldn't expect. Toontrack took advantage of the positional sensing feature that the top level modules have and offer, and they made it possible that you not just using one zone but create even more zones than even the drum module can capture due to the more articulations they recorded per instrument. And I will show you what this cool feature is all about. So I'm gonna pick the snare. And usually we see here the Note 38 is basically like the basic center snare hit. So this is my snare. And you see on the right here, we have this mapping page where it says edit mapping and response. So you see here the Note 38 is going to trigger Note 38, the snare center articulation. But you can create up to 3 different zones for one snare pad. And what you're gonna do here is click 2, click 3, and you see down here in the pad, before we had just one zone or one articulation, and now we have 3 different zones. So the outer ring, this is one, the inner ring, which is now called the mid-center, and this is one of the newest articulation that they captured, the mid-center, because in other versions of Superior Drummer and Easy Drummer and all the drum software in the market, you usually have 2 different, like edge and snare, which you are capable when using with positional sensing pads, but now you have 3 different snares, and I will show you how they do this. So first of all, we're gonna assign, of course, the outer ring, not to the snare center, but to the edge articulation. And now we have the outer ring as a snare edge, the inner as snare mid-center, and just the center, the classical snare center articulation. So you really increase the kind of the naturality of the snare drum and the more natural feeling because you have now 3 different zones. And with these little faders here, you can adjust how or where one of the articulation zones ends and the other starts, and vice versa. So you can really adjust due to your pads, how your pad responds if you have a Roland pad or like R-drums like me or Jobeky or drum-tec. So you can really fine-tune the zones until you have the feeling that it's like kind of a natural transition between the phases. So I've already did this, of course, with my snare, and I will show you exactly how this works with a little video showing you the video where I played the snare drum. You hear the different articulations, and you see the screen from my Roland TD-30 module where you see the positional sensing settings. So it corresponds with the individual articulation from Superior Drummer 3. So this is really impressive because Toontrack finally really understood or captured the needs and the possibilities, the technical possibilities of newer Roland modules. Please be aware this function you can only use when you have a module that supports positional sensing for Roland. There's the TD10, I think, TD12, 20, 25, 30, and 50. When you have one of the lower stuff, drum modules, you won't have this functionality as they don't support positional sensing. And when you ask yourself how do they do this, you see here on the edit mapping and response page the note 38, which is basically the note that's sending to the software, the center articulation or the snare sound, is divided by the software in 3 different notes. The snare edge, which is note 33, the mid center 125, and 38 for the snare sensor. So they divided this because they capture those continuous controller messages, the so-called CC messages that the software sends, the module sends to the software, And I just played a little basic groove, and you will immediately see how this works, because you need to understand that the module itself only sends the MIDI note 38, but within the MIDI note 38 there is this CC message, this continuous controller message, which is the same for the hi-hat, where it's just like sending the notes. The snare drum is triggered, but it's triggered on the edge, or it's triggered on the center. So it's kind of a additional information that the module sends to your software, and the software, like Superior Drummer 3, understands this little messages and can divide this into different sounds, and this is really cool. So here's a little groove played by me where you see how the sound changes, and of course you need to be a really good drummer, because when you don't hit the snare drum always in the center, you will get different sounds. But this is basically what we as acoustic drummers of course be aware of. You don't hit the snare drum, at least I am not doing the snare drum always hitting in the right or on the middle spot, but it's creating more of an acoustic and natural feeling. So check this out. So knowing this feature and being aware of this feature, you can even go a step further. Maybe you remember one of the videos I did some month ago where I used a cover from Jason, Beats by Jay, where I showed you that by a little adjusting of the velocity or MIDI notes of the velocity, you can even enhance the natural feeling without having all the hits at velocity 127. And I will show you a little example how you can enhance the like authentic feel and the authentic sound of the snare sounds, knowing that you have different articulations on the snare drum that you can like change throughout the song. So you see here, I did 3 different versions. The first one is the version that you just heard on the little video I showed you. This is with all the different zones at the snare enabled, and with all kind of like the little subtle differences on velocity of the MIDI notes. So you clearly hear the different sounds of the mid-center articulation, even the edge when I played the ghost notes, and the center hits at the end where I do this little 16th note fill, where I hit the center articulation 2 times and the mid-center articulations 2 times again. So once again. So I put the same little MIDI groove and just disabled all the different articulations and just enabled the center articulation, and even increased all the velocity up to 127, and this is how it sounds like. So Superior Drummer, and I will show you this here. Of course, Superior Drummer, you see here on the right corner, has this, what you already know from Superior Drummer 2, the random function and the humanize functions, where the software like picks different articulations that they did due to the recording, like with the left hand and the right hand, and they created such a big sample pool that you always get the feeling that every snare drum is kind of different, but disabled all the humanization functions, and the different velocities, just raised up everything to 127, so you clearly hear the difference between the first one and the second one. So again, just now the multi-zone with all the functions enabled. And just the center articulation. And just for the comparison, I've put the same MIDI groove and thrown it into Stephen Slate drums to show you how different this can sound. And I've tried to pick the same samples because and on his Deluxe series, he has a Yamaha Beach kick drum as well, which I used within Superior Drummer, and the Black Beauty. But I know Stephen Slate drums are not that recorded in that detail and not that amount of articulation. So here's how this sounds, the same MIDI groove used with Stephen Slate drums. So you clearly hear that it's more of a machine gun effect, once again. In comparison to. So a fantastic feature within the new Superior Drummer 3. I'm really impressed what they guys did. But there's another one that I want to show you, which even impressed me more, because once you understand that approach of that you can add certain articulations to a particular instrument. I read the manual from Superior Drummer 3 this morning, and I found out that this is even possible on the right cymbal. You may say, of course, okay, on the right cymbal I already have 3 different zones, which is usually the crash, the bell, and the bow. But you can even divide the bow into different articulations, because the right cymbal, at least at my module, at the TD-30, and I think TD-50 and 25 as well, or TD-20 and 12 and 10, the module sends different articulations because it distinguishes between how you or where you hit the right cymbal. So the same approach is here. You see here, when I load the articulation of the right cymbal, we have the bow tip, the bow shank, bell tip, bell shank, and the crash, of course. So going back to the MIDI mapping and response page, which I just showed you. So let's go to the right cymbal. And you see I've already created this one. You see note 51, which is usually just the common bell tip when you're riding the ride with your stick, which is note 58 usually, at least at Roland modules. So you see here the same approach that I showed you with the snare drum. Note 51 is divided into two different notes. Basically the right bow tip, which is that, and the right bow played with the shank, because they recorded that articulation when Norman Geschke, the drummer, which recorded the samples for Superior Drummer 3, recorded the right cymbal played with the shank as well. So this is how it sounds like. And again, you can adjust the transition between those two areas on the right cymbal. And I just recorded a little pattern that I played on the right cymbal. It didn't work like 100%. I think I still have to figure out to adjust even more smoothly with the other settings within Superior Drummer. But just the imagination that this is possible, that you can even divide your the playing surface of the right cymbal into different articulations is really fantastic. And I asked you guys playing a Roland TD-30 with the new digital 18-inch right cymbal, which has more sensors picking up the digital right. I think you will can even exaggerate it and even go a step further. So this is my little groove, and just listen and look at the articulations where I play the right cymbal. So there's no function within Superior Drummer where they didn't raise the bar even a step more in comparison to Superior Drummer 2. I just enable the hi-hat and just look at those articulations they recorded. Not only the common open edge and open tip, but they even recorded the bell of the hi-hat in different opening transitions. So you can play even the bell of the hi-hat. It didn't work out on the hi-hat on the VH12 because I think the VH12 just has one single like sensor on the top cymbal, so you cannot trigger. But just thinking, so maybe Roland, please release a digital hi-hat with multi-zones, so you can even play the bell of the hi-hat, which would be quite stunning, to be honest. But because I got the question how many articulations they triggered on the different cymbals, so this is just the crash cymbals that I use for my setup. This is the Zildjian 16-inch Zildjian A paper thin crash. And again here, look at the articulations that they recorded, just the same for the right cymbal. The crash, bow tip, bow shank, bell tip, bell shank, and the mute articulation, of course. And as the Roland cymbal supports two different zones for the edge and the bow, of course, which I think they just did for the Roots expansion pack Superior Drummer 2. Most of the cymbals just had the crash and the mute articulation. So you can now play just on top of the cymbal if you want to do kind of a little groove on the cymbals. And I've made a little video about that as well. Have fun watching. So you see a ton of new improvements concerning playing Superior Drummer 3 with eDrums, and this is just the tip of the iceberg, because when digging or diving into the detail features that you can adjust and all the functionalities you see here on the right side, in terms of tuning each and every instrument's drum shell or cymbal. You can adjust the velocity curve for each and every articulation just by like adding some points here, you see. So you can really fine tune and really go into it. This may look complex, but I think you just have to do this once and save everything as a preset. Just load it up every time you play Superior Drummer. You can change all the things afterwards, of course, change instruments. There's so much more to discover, and I will show you, produce some more videos about other functionalities, such as adding samples, third-party samples to the existing drum library. Like overall, after 1 week of testing, I have to admit that Superior Drummer 3 is not just like another virtual instrument or just an upgrade from Superior Drummer 2. Superior Drummer 3 is really a complete drum production tool, not just a virtual instrument. The core library sounds fantastic. I already showed you some presets, and I will go into that soon. I will upload some drum cover, of course, using Superior Drummer 3. But this whole software is so complex and so in-depth and so convenient to use. It's absolutely unbelievable. Toontrack, you really did a great job. I'm absolutely impressed by the software. So thanks again for watching. I wanted to make this video quite short, but no chance due to the complexity of all the different functions. So I hope you find this one interesting. If you have any questions, comments, leave a comment below. I appreciate every reaction. Thanks so far for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.